pure experiences.
So today's topic is a continuation of our last topic, which was the path of knowledge. And in that meeting, if you recall, I told that there is too much to discuss. So there will be two parts. So this is the second part: truth, certainty, and faith. So we saw what is knowledge, we saw what is ignorance, we saw what is the path of knowledge essentially. It is walking on the. There was an introduction to the path of knowledge, which is a lifestyle based on knowledge, not on ignorance or assumptions or conditionings or blind beliefs or anything. So we question everything, we get the answer using the four ideal ways that we discussed, and we act on the knowledge, not on the mental impulses, desires, or the programming, the conditioning which is already there. There are many reasons why the conditioning is there. It's because of our past experiences it is there. So related to that is you can gain knowledge from the experience, but how will you know that the experience is genuine? How will you know the experience is telling you something which is repeatable, which is useful? Or in other words, how will we know that it is true? So let us take an example of a movie. Are the things happening in the movie true? Are they really what our experience is telling? Our experience is showing us moving a picture, stalking people, and a lot of action happening on the screen. And you will find that it is not very different from the real life. Because you will find that when there is an emotional scene there, it has exactly the same effect on our mind that real situation has. If it is a tragic thing, we start crying. If it is a comic thing, we start laughing. The mind has no idea, and the internals of the mind has no idea at all what is going on. The emotions it produces are real. But is the experience of a movie, can we say, is it the truth that whatever is being seen, it is our direct experience? And you will find that there are many levels there. Now as a movie, it is true, the experience is there. There is a screen and there are pictures on that, there is sound and all, but the events on the movie are not true. So how when we are watching a movie, we have no idea of guessing whether it is a documentary or a movie. Only our experience can tell us. If we see dinosaurs there, then probably it's a good guess that it is not a documentary. But if you see the people you see on TV, the real life people, presidents or prime ministers or your neighbors, then probably it is a documentary. But we still don't have any idea whether the events are true or not. It has many levels. So the experience is of things as they are. The experience does not tell us the nature of the experience, whether it is true or not. The experience alone does not tell us. What tells us that what gives us the information about the truth, the knowledge about the truth, is our own knowledge, our own past knowledge. So we actually evaluate the incoming experience, the present experience, in the light of our past experience, and then we can make a statement about our present experience. And that statement, that evaluation, that judgment is called a truth or not truth. Something is true or false is described in a statement. So what is truth? Truth is a statement. There is a difference between truth and experience. An experience, it just is. It is neither true nor false. When it is evaluated in the light of our past experience, then mind comes up with a statement, and only then we can say, only then we can put our judgment on the experience, and we can categorize it into two categories. It is either true or false. Or If we don't have sufficient knowledge or experience, then we can say there is a third category, which is, we can say, I don't know. It is neither true nor false. There is not enough knowledge there to even evaluate what is happening. So you will find many examples of these things. The movie example was only one, which was kind of a complicated example. But if you go out and somebody tells you that it is day now, and you find that there is moon in the sky, it is dark and there are stars or whatever, and your past knowledge tells us that this situation is not called day, it is called night. So now you can evaluate that statement and you can mark it as false. But if somebody says it is night now, and then you can check your direct experience, and then you know the meaning of what is night and what is day, and then you can mark that statement as true. So you see, the experience is never true or false. Our evaluation of it is true or false. And you can guess very quickly that everybody has their own way of evaluating an experience, which depends on their past experience, which depends on their past conditioning or beliefs or intelligence and many things. Mostly knowledge, actually. You can very well guess that the evaluation of experience into these categories, true, false, or I don't know, is subjective. It is very shocking to know if you are not on the path of knowledge, if you are not experienced seeker, it will be a kind of shock to know that truth is subjective. It is relative. It is not very solid. It keeps changing. It is dynamic. It is fluid. Why? Because truths and their opposites are just subjective statements made by humans. Usually, a teacher will not tell you what is true and what is false. Usually, a teacher will simply point to your own experience and then will leave you to make any conclusions. Is the seeker's job. Yes, that is right. Everything just is. And the mind, divides things into true and false things based on its own limited knowledge, based on its own limited experience, the past experience. So if somebody tells you that XYZ is true, how much can you believe that person? Can you take the statement as it is and just agree with it, that okay, you have said that it is true, and I'm left with no other option but to accept it as true, even though it is not my knowledge, even though it is not my experience? Can we do that? And the obvious answer is no, we cannot. We have to simply listen to that statement and evaluate it using our own knowledge, use our own experience to evaluate what the person is saying. And it may happen that depending on your knowledge, you will categorize that experience into something else. You may find that it is true, you may find that it is totally false, or you may come up with something that is half true, half false. Your first part is true, but the second part is false. Or you may say, no, I don't have any knowledge to evaluate your statement. I need to get the knowledge. To get the knowledge, you need to get the experience. And then you can agree or disagree. So another interesting thing is, we cannot agree or disagree on the experiences, because experiences are entirely subjective. Your experience and my experience is totally different. Even if we agree, nothing can be done about it. It's not useful. However, we can agree about the truth or falseness of a statement. Why is that? Why is it important? Why is it even required that we agree to something? Because if the evaluation of two people is comes out the same, we can conclude that the experience is verifiable. It is a kind of evidence that the experience happened. Yes, so it may happen that many people will say that some statement is true, and does that mean that you can go and have that experience? No, obviously not. Because even if it is the statement made by many, it is not your experience. So we have to, simply listen to that. We have to simply take it at its face value and then evaluate it using our own experience. So majority thing or democratic truth is not actually very useful. You will find that you will find many examples in the history. We can forgive them because they are not on the path of knowledge. They don't have these tools and techniques and training to evaluate anything. So if 10 people are saying the same thing, 10 people are saying XYZ is true, the sky is falling or the earth is flat, and an ordinary person has no choice but to accept that as true. So politicians take advantage of this kind of limitation of the mind, and they herd the sheep kind of. They grow a majority behind them, which is saying the same thing that they are saying, and it becomes true. It becomes true whatever they are saying. If they are saying that such and such country is our enemy, and if enough people start singing the same tune, then for an ordinary citizen of that country, there is no other choice. They simply get brainwashed, and they have no choice but to take the statement as true because everybody is saying the same thing. And you will find that the politicians usually get away with such things, and they can do anything they want simply by brainwashing a large portion of the population. Anyway, that was not the topic. Topic is of the truth, and there is a very strange thing about the truth is that it is useful if many people are agreeing. A seeker should go and look into it. That is the only use of evaluation by people. If somebody is saying this is true, we should go and explore that. Do not leave it. If somebody says it is false, there are chances that it will turn out to be a useless exercise if you go there. But we do not when we go and search for the truth and we cannot find the truth, then there is no other option left but to explore the statements that were judged as false. I hope you get my point. So if there is no option left, then whatever is false, whatever is considered as false, must be explored and must be we need to find out whether it is really false or not, or people just say it is false. So truth is subjective. Democratic truth is may not be your own experience. If number of people believe it, it does not mean that it is that you will find that experience. We need to judge it. So how to judge something? How to evaluate a statement? How to evaluate an experience? Now we can leave the people alone. We need to do it with our own experiences. Actually, a seeker is concerned with their own experiences. So since it is subjective, the criteria that we use to evaluate an experience or a statement are also subjective. You can make up any criteria you want. Then this is another shock to a newcomer. How is it even possible? I know that the truth can be subjective, but why are the criteria also subjective? Why? Because mind is free to make up any criteria it wants and mark anything as true using those criteria. So let us say if it is written in some book which is very, very old and written by some great fellow thousands of years ago, and many people use that criteria as the criteria for true. It is old, it is written by the famous guy from the past, it is true. So we cannot argue with it. What we can do is go into the statement, check the statement, what it is saying, get the experience. If you already have the experience, then you can instantly judge it. If you don't, get the experience, and then you can use your own criteria to arrive at the true or false of that. So what are the criteria? Nobody will recommend you any criteria. You need to get your own criteria. If you why do we need to categorize the experience at all? If we want to communicate our experience to others, we need to categorize them. If you had an experience and you are not sure what you saw, what you experienced, and then it is better not to tell it to others as if you really experienced. You can say, I saw it, I experienced it, but I don't know whether it is true or not according to your criteria. When we want to communicate our experiences, it is useful to classify the experiences in terms of true or false, or I don't know. So you can make up your own criteria actually. This is the good thing. So you can be as rigorous as you want. You can be as strict as you want. So what are the recommended criteria? I said that we don't recommend it, but then how will a newcomer will know, what criteria to set up? So and the wise people, they have you can follow them, and they have already set up some criteria. You will find a long list on my blog about the article on what was the article on the path of knowledge, and I'm going to tell you a few. Like the first criteria is that truth is self-evident. That means it is right before our eyes. It is, you need not go and find an evidence for it. You need not wait for it. It is here and now, always. And the truth is repeatable. The truth is consistent. It won't change from one day to the next day. And there are a few more criteria. So you can go on adding these criteria. And one more criteria, important one, is the truth is logical. That means a statement, if you mark it as true, you cannot have a negative of that statement marked as true. In other words, something cannot be true and false at the same time. So this is one of the very important criteria. So evidence, that means the experience can be had, and logical, repeatable, consistent, unchanging. And usually, because most of the minds are same, they would have the same kind of experience and they will come up with the same kind of truths. So if it is something is really true, you can actually exchange notes with others. I saw this, did you see this? And that gives us a little bit of confidence that we are exploring in the correct direction, but not a lot. So true statements are useful only in order to communicate our experience. They are not useful as a means to gain knowledge. If just somebody tells you something and also adds a statement that whatever I told you is true, it does not become knowledge. You see. So true and false, very, very shaky things. Do not believe anything that is marked as true. Do not believe anything that is marked as false also. It is the same thing. People use, a very subjective criteria to put something into the category of false. It's very, very subjective. Oh, I cannot see it. My senses cannot grasp it. It is not there. It is false. So you see, this is a kind of a belief. The experience is being marked as false based on some kind of random criteria, which is sensory perception. So there are many, in everyday life you will find many things. People hardly agree on anything actually. So in science, which is a branch of path of knowledge, which is concerned with the study of worldly stuff, you will never see anything marked as true. You will never see anything marked as false. What is there are descriptions, which are called theories, and there are supporting experiments to support that theory. There are no scientists will never say that something is true. Scientists will use a diplomatic language that experimental results show such and such theory is proves such and such theory. That's all they will say. There is an ample experimental evidence in support of this theory. So you will find that scientists are actually very hardcore seekers on the path of knowledge. They won't take anything as true actually. Their own experiment, they won't say that it is true. They will never say it is false also. So those who have studied science will know what I am talking about. There are just hypotheses, there are theories, and there are experiments, that support one or the other theories. The same experiment can be explained using 10 theories, and the scientist is okay with it. Doesn't matter. So seeker goes one step ahead, and it does not even bother about the experiment. The seeker is concerned about their own experience. So if the experience happened and it was of some nature, and if the seeker, it satisfies the criteria of truth for a seeker, then it is marked as truth. That's all. Then you use it or don't use it, act on it, don't act on it. It is all your wish, actually. You see, it is a very subjective thing. Experience, that is because experience itself is subjective. There is no objective experience. So then what to make of all this? If somebody is telling you about something, what a seeker should do. And that's why we have something. Yes. So unchanging thing has been something. There is a good criteria in Advait, just like he said. That's things that change are false, illusory, and things that do not change are true. Reality is, another word for true things and true experiences. And this is very useful criteria. But, you can have any criteria. This is the kind of very absolute criteria, very, very strict criteria. That means that nothing is true, actually. Only the self is true, which is Brahma Satya Jagat Mithya. A very simple formula, And that is the ultimate kind of criteria. That means even at the level of mind, nothing is true. So, and this is paradox, because the Jagat, the world is also me, also self. It is Brahman. So kind of paradoxical, and you can appreciate now why we are comfortable with this kind of statements. Because you have attended the meeting on paradox, trying to show the paradoxical nature of what is. So everything just depends on your goal. Yes, if something is taking you towards your goal and it satisfies your criteria of the truth, then better act on it. Why not? Yes. So it depends on our goal. Our goal is actually knowledge, not the truth. There is a kind of lot of confusion about this. Some people say, I'm a truth seeker, I seek truth. But then it totally depends on your criteria, isn't it? What are you seeking? If it depends on some assumed criteria, what good it is, Go for knowledge, go for experience. So, samsara is nirvana, nirvana is samsara. Very good, yeah. Yes. So some people are trying to get rid of what is false, but they don't even know that, they are already free from it. If it is false, then why are you trying to get rid of it? What good it is going to do? Just enjoy it. Okay, so I was telling about, I was jumping into the topic of certainty. So you see very, very shaky stuff here. What are you going to do if you have some kind of experience, and if there is, some views, opinions flying around in the spiritual circles about it, that this is true and this is not true, and what? So what we do actually, and I also do it, most of the time, not always, but that I assign a certainty. What is certainty? Certainty is a measure of the truth. If a statement, satisfies some of the criteria from your list, make a list of the criteria. You have subjective list, or you can take it from somebody who you like, whom you trust, take those criteria if you cannot come up with your own. And if the statement or your experience satisfies most of them, the criteria there, then it is more certain. So, you can quantify the truth. You can assign a probability into it. You can assign a percentage to it, that something may be 90% true. It is not going to make it any more useful, but it just gives us something to start from. So if you think that if you are an experienced seeker, and if you think something is only 10% true, that it satisfied only a tiny amount of your criteria, then do not waste time on it. If you come up with something which says, which your evaluation comes up like 90%, 95%, 99%, you can, even start acting on it. Even if you don't have any experience, don't wait for the experience. You can simply start acting on it. Now, it will totally depend on the choice of the seeker. There is no recommended thing. There is no prescribed things. What to do, how to come up with something, a percentage, how to come up with the probability of the certainty. So let us take an example that you see a crow and it is black, and but you are not sure that all the species of the crow are really black or not. So you take the truth, the statement that the crows are black as 50% certain, because the other crow you see may be white, who knows? But then you see the other crow, and then you see 10 more crows, and then you travel around your place, and in a large area you see that all the crows are black. Then you can refine your certainty of the statement that the crow is black to about 99%. And one day you travel to some other country and you will find that the crows are, their neck is gray, kind of half gray or something. And then suddenly your certainty will jump back to 90%, because now your statement is not absolutely true. It is somewhat true. How much? Out of 100 crows, let us say that 90 crows are perfectly black. So you can simply divide, 90 divided by 100, and there you have 90%. So you can do this with everything that you encounter. So are all dreams true? How will you find out? See, some dreams are true. You see, you cannot generalize the statement that all dreams are false. You cannot make it a 0%. There is always a little truth in something. So if you have seen in your life, you have seen 1,000 dreams, and only one of the dream became true. It was kind of precognition, and it happened. So, but what statement can you make? How can you evaluate that experience of the dreams in terms of true and false? All you can say is 1 out of 1,000 is these dreams they come out to be true. Then your certainty is just 0.1%, you see. So the next dream, the chances of the next dream being true is just 0.1. There is this is how it is useful. Then if it is so less, the certainty is so less, you will not take any action on it. You won't simply follow your dreams, the night dreams. So this is the use of certainty in evaluation of the truth using your own criteria. You can go on refining the criteria. What criteria works, you will know, because your experience will tell you that if I use that criteria, it was a disaster. Books, some things being written in the book, it was a disaster. I saw it on the TV, therefore it is true. It is a disaster. So you will drop all those criteria and you will come up with a refined list of criteria. So if you go and check the scientific method or check the Advait or any other path of knowledge, what criteria they use, whether it is change or sensory perception or instruments or whatever is there, you see, you can make many lists of the criteria under which the truth is defined and pick up your own. You can pick and choose from anything. Pick something which is most useful for you. So, like one of my teacher, Tom Campbell, he says that do not worry what is true and what is false. If you can use it, use it. You must be knowing this phenomena of placebo. They just give the sugar pills, probably salt pills, because sugar is also not very good for health. So, and it cures the disease because the patient believed that it is true medicine. So, was it true really? No, it was not. But what is your experience saying? You see? So, don't worry about the truth and falsity of anything. If it is useful, use it. If the salt, don't take sugar pills. They are not good. Okay, take the salt pills if you want. But if you already know that it is false, then probably it won't work. They trick the mind because mind has no concept of true or false actually. It is a made up thing for the mind. mind takes the experience as nothing but the truth. And this is how the innocent people are, this is how the children are. If you show them the photo of Superman or Batman movie of these characters, they think that it's true. It takes many years for them to realize that they are fictitious characters. Anyway, so a mind is we have this important ability to judge the experience from the point of view of the truth. You see, it is important. Otherwise, we'll keep believing into the in the fictitious things. The truth and its criteria, they bring us out of this illusion, delusion. So that is why I say it can be useful. So there are different kinds of truths, and if it is not based on experience, then it's kind of useless. So last time I gave you the example, that when I make a statement that my unicorn is white, and you ask me, how do you know your unicorn is white? And I say, because all unicorns are white. So it is perfectly logical that my unicorn is also white. Now, if you feed this thing into a computer, the computer is not going to complain. Yeah, because it is perfectly logical, you see. So if A is greater than B, then B, and B is greater than C, then A is greater than C. And we don't care what the A, B, C are. This is a truth in itself. Does not matter if the A, B, C are, the sizes of the tails of unicorns. And this, you can see, how hollow the concept of truth is, how hollow the logic is. If it is not based on your experience, then no amount of logic is going to help. Simply because my unicorn is white is a true statement, not going to do much for you. You will still find that you don't have any unicorns. And why am I saying it? Isn't it obvious? Because, in spiritual things, when you make something very, very complicated and make it very, very logical, the mind has usually a simple mind has no way to tell whether it is true or not. The mind will, grab onto it because it sounds so logical. So if somebody is going to tell you, the light in your light bulb is because of the electricity, and electricity is the flow of electrons and this and that, and you will have no other choice but to accept it as truth. So if you go, if you dig deeper into it, you will find that there's no such thing there. And this is true for the spiritual statements also. Some of them sound so logical and convincing that even an experienced seeker will fall for it. If something, a theory is made sufficiently complex and logical, then a simple mind will believe it as true. So it does not become true if it is logical. Keep this in your mind always. It does not matter how great the logic is. It does not matter how great the rationale is. If it is not based on any evidence or anything that can be experienced, experiential evidence, then it's kind of useless for a seeker. So you will see in the courtroom, if there are very, very logical arguments from both sides, but can we say that they are all true? No. That's why we say, the judges are blind. They do not check the experience. They were not there to check the experience. So obviously they rely on the logic, and the advocate who can convince the judge using arguments and logic usually wins. And the thing is, for somebody on the path of knowledge, it does not really matter how strong your argument is. If it is not, if the knowledge cannot be transmitted, if the experience cannot be had, it is useless. We don't even judge it as true or false. So when you see something as very, very logical, just appreciate it. It is logical, yes, beautiful, but is it true? We don't know. Need to find out. So there are logical truths and there are experiential truths. Let us keep this in mind. Do not make this mistake of taking logic as the only criteria of the truth. It is one of the criteria. So, and we think that humans are logical creatures, logical entities. The truth is, a tiny fraction of humans even know what logic is. You can do your own survey and find out how the humans evaluate something. Ask them to evaluate something on the logic alone, and they will come up with very, very absurd answers. Most of the population out there is totally illogical and irrational. Mostly it is conditioning, mostly it is ego and evolutionary reason, and they choose that. Sometimes emotions also, they choose the emotion, they act from it to come at evaluation of something. So this is a joke, and this is a very common puzzle that if a woman had child was the son, the second child was also a son, a male, and the third child was also a son, and now she is pregnant again. So what is the chance? What will be the gender of the the newly born child? What is the chance of it being a male or a female? And you will find that many people, they answer that it will be a son, and we cannot blame them because they were never trained. Their minds are untrained, so they will go with something which is very, very foggy and unreliable. And same thing for the evaluation of the usefulness of a product, let us say. So many people will evaluate a product based on its price, and they will say it looks good and it is costly, so it is better, you see, it is a superior product, and they will go and buy it. They will even stand in lines to buy it, even though it will be total crap. It is just made to look good, and the hyperinflated cost, and it appeals to the people because in their experience the costly things were high quality. So these advertisers and marketing people, they take advantage of this. If a rich man arrives in a car showroom, they show him the costliest model first, and they get hooked instantly. Yeah. Actually, if you mention iPhone, then you will offend many people, so I don't even mention it. And there is not only iPhone, there are many such useless products in the market that actually take advantage of these illogical working of our minds. Many people fall for it. So they see an advertisement in the TV, and a very pretty model is saying that get this product. They just rush into the market and get the product. And you can actually very well sit down and very well analyze what goes on in their mind. It is not logic. It is anything but logic, you see. So most of our human minds are illogical. Why is that? Because it takes training to think logically. It takes your mind needs to be trained to be critical. Your mind needs to be trained to be skeptical. And that's why I mentioned critical thinking, logical thinking as one of the quality that a seeker must have. You should install a bullshit meter in your mind and keep it on all the time, especially when you're listening to a teacher. Filter everything through that BS meter, and if it starts beeping, it's time to go. Don't listen. It is a waste of time. So on the other hand, a seeker is also very, very open-minded. Usually we listen unless it starts beeping very, very badly. Then we and we already have gone through that many times and never found anything of substance in those teachings. We just go from that place. So we need a good balance of critical thinking and open-mindedness. And do not depend on the truth. Always depend on the experience. Act from the experience. So this our mind is the only instrument that we have to gain knowledge, and it is very, very it falls very quickly. It slips very quickly. It is very, very unstable and fluid. So if we train our mind, we will be able to evaluate our experiences more reliably. We need to train ourselves. How to do that? Okay, this is, for a newcomer, a new seeker, it will be almost impossible. So what I recommend is just copy your teacher. Check your teacher how he is evaluating the statements. What is he calling as true? What is he calling as false, and why? You should be brave enough to ask your teacher, why did you say that it is true? What criteria did you use? Now you have this background of criteria and logic and everything. And you should again ask, what is your own experience? If the teacher keeps telling you that it is written in such and such book, and therefore it is true, you should be brave enough to ask your teacher, but did you verify it, sir? What is your own experience? What does your own experience tell you about this things that you are preaching? And it is possible that the teacher will come up with an experience, and the teacher will be able to tell you how to get that experience. If it is like that, do not leave that teacher. You have found a gem. But if the teacher cannot do that, simply keeps repeating the same thing without actually showing you why is that, then it's time to move on. Get another teacher. Maybe that teacher is telling the truth. Who knows? But if you don't have any way to evaluate that, then it is kind of blind belief. So let me jump here into the topic of faith, because the topic is truth, certainty, and faith. So why am I even talking about it if faith is not a recommended way to gain knowledge? You cannot simply blindly believe somebody, have blind faith on something, and adopt it and act on it. It is not recommended at all. But I'll tell you a secret. If you want fast knowledge, if you want to progress very, very fast on your path, then the fastest way is faith. Yeah, surrendering is, faith is one of the aspect of surrendering. What happens is, if you have faith, you don't waste time in finding out the truth. You don't waste time in getting the experience. You can simply act on the teaching if you have faith, and that actually puts you into a very fast lane. If you have a goal, if you have something, you will reach there in no time. If you are on the path of knowledge, the knowledge will start coming very, very fast, very quickly, simply because you chose to have faith on the teacher. Now there is a pitfall here. What kind of teacher can you trust? Whom you can blindly trust? And then again, it depends on your own experience actually. Do not go and have blind faith on everybody. That is not recommended. So if you meet a teacher, if your teacher, consistently is teaching you the truth, is consistently providing you with the experiences, and according to your own judgment, they are all true. The teachings are all true. Then the next teaching he is going to give you, you can simply accept it on faith and start acting on it. It is rare to find such a teacher, but if you are lucky enough, do not let go of that teacher. You have found a gem. You are very, very lucky if you have found such a teacher. That the next statement he utters is simply the truth. How lucky can you get? And you need not wait for the actual experience actually. If he tells you, go and do this, you will be benefited by it. Just go and do it on faith. It will put you on the fast track. But you see, whenever you take a shortcut, whenever you take a fast thing, there are inherent dangers. There are problems there. So you need to be very careful whom you are trusting. Do not trust a book. Do not trust random people. Do not believe it only because it is old and everybody has majority is saying that it is true. They are pitfalls. So whom to on where to put your faith actually. So you meet a tradition or you meet a person who is your guru or teacher, and let us say you have received 10 teachings from that guru, and out of the 10 teachings, 8 of them you can verify after a few years maybe, or after a few weeks, doesn't matter. You can verify that out of the 10 teachings that he has given you, 8 are perfectly true according to you, according to your own criteria and subjective, and you can experience it. then it makes sense to actually believe the rest of the remaining two also. There's a good chance that the remaining two teachings are going to be true. Don't wait for it. You can act on it. The only thing is you should be careful whether they are too dangerous or if they are too risky to act on. But you can find the examples actually. You can find the examples if you have been to teachers that if they are very, very consistent in what they teach, then the next teaching they are going to provide you is usually, you can simply believe it blindly. And I don't call it blind faith. It is a faith. It is a shortcut. And I've given a name to it, and I call it as living faith. The day your teacher, starts sounding very, very absurd, it is time to stop believing. Because now you have no idea what he's saying. You have no idea how to get that experience. You have no idea how to evaluate that teaching. Stop the faith there, turn it off. That's why I call it as, living faith. It is alive. The faith has to be kept alive as long as it is benefiting you. Once it becomes absurd, your teacher starts telling you, go and lie down on the train track because you are going to go home. This is a dream. And then, your bullshit meter starts beeping and you withdraw your faith. Some people will do even that, but then you must be, you can be sure that they must be getting something very great from that teacher. But usually somebody on the path of knowledge is not that open-minded. Is not that soft. We are very, very hard. We do not believe anything actually. We do not believe our own experience sometimes. So yeah, we are taught exactly opposite. Do not question. Do not believe. Question everything. Question your own experience. Question the teacher. Respectfully, obviously. Do not argue with the teacher, actually. It does not work very well. It is a waste of time. If you think, something that does not make any sense at all, then there is no question of having faith. But do not start teaching the teacher, It does not work well. Because not only you irritate the teacher, your ego takes a front seat, which is not good. Ego needs to be on the back seat always. Just bow down to the teacher, whatever he's saying. Get out of there if you don't agree. So you can use this shortcut which I've given you, but be very careful. Have living faith on somebody whom you respect a lot, whom you trust a lot. That will, put you into the light speed. And you can reach your goal almost instantly sometimes, simply by, trusting a teacher. And the only trick here is whom to trust, whom to, follow blindly. And living faith has, is not total blind. You can very well see it from the examples. It is not totally blind. It is based on your own experience. And it is only your choice that you don't, you decide not to waste your time applying, 100 criterias and getting years of experience before starting, before even acting on it. So let us take an example now. If your teacher tells you that there is something called rebirth, and your mind is generating bodies after bodies, having the experiences of bodies in an endless loop, kind of useless loop, and going through all the suffering, which is called samsara. And the only way to get rid of this suffering is to liberate yourself from the cycles of birth and death. Now, how on this earth are you going to evaluate this teaching? You need to die first, isn't it, to even know that there is rebirth. And if you're already reborn, you have no way to know that. So what do you do? Do you just simply blindly believe your teacher and kill yourself? No, I don't want to be born again. Yeah, it is very, very difficult. The teachings will put you into, some of the teachings will put you into this difficult situation where you have no way to judge them. You have no way to find the truth. And then you are left with this question of whether to believe it, whether to have faith or not. And what is my recommendation? No recommendation actually. It is totally depends on you. Now, what I'll do in such situation is I'll go for hunting for the hints. What? Why did he say that? How do you know, sir? How do you know that the only way to get rid of the cycles of births and deaths is nirvana or liberation or deconditioning your mind or ending your desires? How do I even start? And if you have a good teacher, you will get the technique. You will get the practice. If you don't have a good teacher, probably you'll be left with that statement, and the best position to take under such situations is to be agnostic. You simply say, I don't know, I'll find out, and you find out. And here, that will be the best. Here, seeker on the path of knowledge differs from other seekers. Let us say a person on the devotional path will simply take it as, truth and start acting on it. Now he can get lucky, you see. That's why sometimes I say devotional path is the fastest path you have. If you have a lot of devotion, if you blindly believe something and that thing happens to be truth, you will reach there, first. You will leave behind all other seekers and you will be there. But you can see the dangers there. Exactly. That's why, I always say that, but then I add that, I've never found anybody who is really devotional, who is totally devoted. The devotees have their own doubts. They don't really follow it. Why do we think the devotees are even behind, the other kind of seekers? That is because they are not totally devoted. Their faith is blind, but not totally blind. They keep one eye open somehow, and that's why they don't reach there. So quickly, they need to struggle just like everybody else. And we take the path of struggle. We take the long cut knowingly, because we know that we are fully assured when we know. That is why we choose this path of knowledge. Because even though it is going to take a lot of time, you'll need to die and take birth at least 1,000 times before you become aware enough to know that there is such a thing. But we take that path because better to be sure. Who cares about the time, you see? There is no time. So I was one of them actually. I wanted everything today. So and I was really frustrated when I couldn't get any answers. And I was put into the situation where the only way to know was to wait and experience, to get the experience, to make efforts for it. And that, is frustrating because it is not, it is not a matter of days. It is not a matter of months, not even of years. It is a matter of lifetimes. And that is going to make you very, very depressed initially. Oh no. I'm stuck here without knowing. So we need to actually compromise with the situation. We need to accept the defeat that, this mind is not capable of everything instantly. There is a process through which it needs to go before it can get the required experience. And the experience may come, may not come, who knows. So we, fully knowing that the person cannot be enlightened, the person is kind of an illusion, and seeking is an illusion. Fully knowing that, we start seeking. We don't seek blindly. We have this background of knowledge that we use, and we still go on the path because the other options are not very attractive, you see. That's why we keep going, and in the end you will find that there was no seeker. In the end you'll find the ignorance was an illusion too. So is knowledge. But who cares? Who cares? You see, the destination doesn't matter. Who cares? The destination doesn't matter. We are already home. We never left home. There is no question of going anywhere. The path matters, you see. What path you take, that matters. Take the path of your heart. Take the path that is, most attractive for you. The path that you enjoy most. If the devotional path is going to take you there, instantly, but it is a pain, why should I bother, I'll take the fun path, you see, where there is exploration, where there is, wonder, where there is beauty. I'll take that. So it so totally depends on the seeker, and the conditioning of the mind of that seeker, what path they are going to take. But once you have taken the path of knowledge, you will need to make peace with the limitations of the mind. You're not going to get all the experiences. And that's why we learn to live with uncertainty. Almost everything will be uncertain for you. And you must be thinking that I'm going to give you something very, very solid because this is a path of knowledge. I'm going to give you the means to get the truth, and I'm going to give you the means to get the solid knowledge, and finally I'll get it. And I've done actually opposite. I've actually pulled the floor below your feet. You are now hanging in the air. The truth is subjective. Experiences cannot be evaluated. You can only have a certain subjective criteria, random criteria, and you can evaluate your experience at most using a percentage. Now, what the hell? I mean, is it even useful? how am I going to even seek with these kind of statements? The thing is, a seeker knows that such things exist, and there is no such thing as truth. There is no such thing as reality. Even the unreal reality is not there. The ultimate criteria says that nothing is real. Seeker is an illusion. Enlightenment, does not happen to you, to the mind. And all experiences are just illusion. So, does it make sense to, still travel on this path? Now it is for you to judge. I pulled the solid foundation from under your feet. And this has happened to me, and I've learned to live with uncertainty very, very gracefully, fully knowing that the next experience can totally destroy my whole knowledge. Be ready for it. I always keep telling you all the teachings are lies, all the knowledge is false, all the ignorance is actually not there, and that is not very that is not very comfortable for a seeker, who is seeking something solid. And last meeting I tell you, these are the solid means to gain knowledge. Your experience is the most solid thing. And go for the truth. You do not believe the books and all. And now, in the end, I'm telling you, probably you'll be able to do nothing at all once you are in the field, you see. Helpless. The only thing we have is the mind, very, very slippery thing. Very, very, delicate thing. Sometimes it is here, sometimes it is there, sometimes somebody is saying something, sometimes it has faith, sometimes it has no faith. Doubts everything. And you will go through these ups and downs. And then the only thing that you will learn is to live with uncertainty. Take every experience that happens as new. Even if you have seen that 100 times, it is still new. And you can still learn from it. This happens. Listen to the teachings again and again and again, and you will again, sometimes you'll find something new in the teaching. Suddenly the teaching will appear in a new light. The hidden things in the teachings are going to show up, even after you have heard it at least 10 times. If you hear the teachings again, there will be something new in that. And that is because of our own limitations actually. The mind is limited. So you have to gracefully live with what is. And that's why on the path of, in the non-dual philosophies, they have defined an absolute criteria, which Mukul told, which is, don't worry about anything that changes, that comes and goes. Don't worry about it. Just leave it. It's not worth pursuing. The real thing is the self, which is changeless, which never changes, which is actually you. So, that's why on the first day itself, we just drop this bomb and then we let the seeker decide. Now, do you want to, pursue that is totally meaningless and illusory? Most welcome. If you want, there is a path waiting for you, very, very long path. We go on that path fully knowing that it's completely useless. It's not going to give us anything at all. We still go there. Because that is how things are, you see. And a paradox will make the most sense. Solid statements. Be be very very suspicious if you encounter a very solid statement on the spiritual path. Be very suspicious about it. It may not be true. So once you travel far enough, you start finding that the experiences are experiences, whereas they're not true, they're not false. You can know only a few things, you cannot know everything, and then you live with it because everything just is. You allow the experiences as they are. Sometimes they shine in the light of your knowledge, you allow that also. Sometimes they leave you in the dark and you keep wondering, become curious about it. Oh, I don't know. How wonderful. There's something that I encountered for the first time in my life that I don't know what it is. And it is a great moment for you. New experience. Even though we fully know that another illusion. We don't care. Because this was our choice when we started, you see. That's why on the first day we had the choice not to start at all. Be content with what is. So this is the path of knowledge for you, and yes, almost leaves you nowhere. But this is how things are, at least according to my experience, you see. So any more comments or questions or doubts? I actually recommend that you think about it, because this is the fundamental thing. Think about it, ponder about it for many days, at least weeks. What is this? What did I actually say? Why did I say it? Yeah, introspect on this. If you cannot make head and tail of it, it is perfectly okay, but you need to have a feeling of it. What are you doing? Because you are going to spend many lives. You don't have to believe me, but at least this life, once you're hooked on the path of knowledge, you're gone. It will consume you. So be very careful before you start. You will really appreciate these things, things like living with uncertainty, not caring about the truth, not having a plan, not running after the experiences, even though you value them, and not taking everything so seriously. You will appreciate all these things only after you have struggled for a few years on the path of knowledge. This is play. If it is not fun, do not take it. It is not path of your heart then. If it is making you suffer a lot, then the ignorance is suffering, but sometimes knowledge will cause suffering. It will leave you empty. Because knowledge is actually empty, the knowledge gives you nothing actually. So the ego will find this another kind of suffering. That's why if the minds are not ready, the truth will make them afraid. People are afraid of finding the truth. They keep their head buried nicely into the illusion. Why? Because they're not ready. You need to have a very strong mind, and if you don't have a sense of humor, you don't take these things lightly, you will find that they're very uncomfortable actually. You don't want to know it. It is like the character in that movie Matrix who wanted to plug back and have a nice experience in the illusion instead of in the suffering of the truth. Many people, yeah, Cypher. Many people are like that. If you put the truth in front of them, they will just kick it, continue with their beliefs. So if you are that kind of person, the path of knowledge is useless. Do not even take it. Do not even think about it. Ignorance is also okay. Highly recommended. You go through this again and again. Even ask your teachers, what is it all about? Path of knowledge is not really about knowledge, you see. It is about you. So if there are no more questions, we'll conclude the meeting and I'll meet you next Wednesday. There is a format change here and we're going to have few meetings, but longer meetings. So thank you very much for attending today's meeting. I'll see you soon. Thank you.
Pure experiences.
You are listening to Pure Experiences by Tharun Pradhan. For more, please visit pureexperiences.blogspot.in.